Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal is now officially the headliner of the March pay-per-view card, and Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier is being targeted to be the co-main event of that very same card. I'm going to break down both of these bits of information on today's MMA News reaction video, starting with Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal being official. This is not just some random rumor. This is not a verbal agreement. This is as per Brett Okamoto of ESPN saying that it's official that Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal will headline UFC 272, and there is a rush of blood going around my body. My emotions are all over the place. I've just seen this headline, and this is my initial reaction. I'm so excited for this bout. If you're an MMA fan, and you have even paid any attention to the sport over the past few years, this is the matchup you've always wanted to see. Best friends turned enemies, a perfect matchup, a great way to headline a pay-per-view. But I have a mix of emotions, because what about tough, man? I am confused emotionally here because I am beyond excited for this bout, and I'm going to break down who I believe is going to win and how the whole build-up's going to go, because I imagine this is going to be a crazy build-up to a pay-per-view card. But what about tough, man? What about the Ultimate Fighter? It was a couple of months away. Pay these two guys hundreds of thousands to just sit on the sidelines for a couple of months so we can watch them on the Ultimate Fighter. I bet you they do Nunes Pena 2 on tough. And if they do Nunes versus Pena 2 on tough, they wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. What's going to be the tough headliner? Oh my god, I haven't even considered this. I'm going to get into all of this right now, though. But Covington versus Masvidal has been signed, and this is what I've wanted to see for a very long time. It's the March pay-per-view. To be honest, I kind of knew it was going to happen. They moved all of the title fights off of the card. They weren't going to do Usman versus Edwards on that card either, so I was thinking, you know what? They're doing Diaz-Poirier. That's not the main event. That main event's probably going to be Covington versus Masvidal, because they've been talking back and forth, verbally agreeing to fight each other, so it was only a matter of time before this got signed. I'm very glad that, in a way, they're being a bit more active, because, again, if they were to be the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, they'd probably end up fighting each other around July, at best, maybe June, if you could move some things around and start The Ultimate Fighter a little bit earlier. It's such a missed opportunity to rebuild tough. Like, that's the only problem I have. Unless McGregor maybe comes back and is a coach against Tony Ferguson, I could understand that situation. That would be amazing. But I really wanted this on tough, and it's a shame that it won't be there. But I'll take this news anyway, because that March pay-per-view, Covington Masvidal, hopefully in the works, Diaz-Poirier, that's an amazing, and maybe like the winners take on each other. You could end up with, in my opinion, I believe that Covington will beat Masvidal. I believe that Poirier probably is going to beat Nate Diaz, but it's a tough fight. Both of these guys have got tough fights ahead of them, but I will side with Covington and Poirier. They're most likely to be pretty sizable favourites, in my opinion. And, they could have the winners versus each other. They could do Covington versus Poirier from this. Imagine the backstage interactions. We're going to see Covington at the same press conference as Nate Diaz. The brain cell jokes are going to be flowing from Colby Covington. The press conference! Oh my god, the press conference. Covington, Masvidal, Poirier, Diaz. They're all just going to team up on him, and he's going to fucking free-for-all every single one of them. That is going to be just get Marvin Vettori on this. Oh my god, get Marvin Vettori on this card. This will sell 1 million pay-per-view buys. Get Marvin Vettori on this card. Somehow get Ricky Tercios at the press conference as well. I don't care. We need Vettori versus Rockhold on this card as well. That's the matchup they're going to make, in my opinion, in the middleweight division. It makes sense because Vettori's got to win 2 more fights in a row, and if he wins against Rockhold, it'll still put him in the same position, so it's like a free fight in the meantime for Vettori, rather than killing off an actual middleweight contender coming up like Strickland. So let's do Vettori Rockhold at a press conference, Covington Masvidal, Diaz Poirier. Oh my goodness, this is great news. But again, tough! But maybe not tough. You know why I don't think they want to do tough? I don't know if the beef is real. And I don't want tough to happen if the beef is going to be like, oh, you know what, we're friends anyway. You know what I mean? At the end of it, like, maybe they settle out their differences on tough with an argument, because you don't just go from that close of friends to one communication and then all of a sudden you can't even stand the guy anymore, there's still going to be that emotion down inside that you're friends with this person. Maybe not having TUF would be better. Maybe we could see a fucking, hopefully, accidental head clash, no contest, and then we have to rebook it. Oh no, looks like we're gonna have to rebook it for TUF a couple of months later. I'm glad they're staying active though. I'm glad Covington's staying active more than anything. I know Masvidal hasn't been too active recently either, but Covington over the past few years, I mean, when did he even fight Woodley? I feel like it was ages ago. And then even that was one fight in the space of before when he last fought Usman. So Covington has not been an active guy. So to see him get right back in there in March, even before Usman, who apparently he lost to, I thought the fight was a draw. But either way, he's getting back in there before Usman. He's taking on Masvidal. And if he wins this one, he's going to be in a position to take on one more guy and get right back in towards that title shot, because Masvidal's still a dangerous guy. Now, I do believe that Covington's going to win. Let's get into the prediction side of things and calm myself down a little bit here about this information. I was just about to go live and this just fucking comes up out of nowhere. I'm like, fuck live. I need to make this video right now. Covington, Masvidal. I believe Covington's going to win. I think he's going to smash Masvidal. I think he's going to destroy him and annihilate him and wrestle him to death. And I think that's the logical prediction to make. In all honesty, I really do. Masvidal is extremely dangerous, and of course he can land that KO shot. But when you're worrying about takedowns and you don't land that flying knee in the first few seconds, it's going to be a bit of a problem. I think Covington's way closer to his prime, which he is. Covington is improving fight after fight. I don't know if you can say the same thing about Masvidal. Masvidal is going to be extremely inactive come this fight because, again, Usman knocked out Masvidal before he even fought Covington, and here's Covington turning around and Masvidal turning around at the same time. So Masvidal's been out for a while. Of course, he was supposed to fight Leon Edwards in December, had to pull out of that one with an injury. So, of course, is this all part of their master plan to fake an injury of Jorge Masvidal, and then all of a sudden him versus Covington is made and it works out perfectly? Man, I wish this was on TUF, but I feel as though Masvidal's not going to be the same after that KO loss. He's never really been chinned in his career. I know he has a TKO loss earlier in his career, but he kind of got dropped really badly to where the ref jumped in prematurely and he was still somewhat conscious on the ground. Man, 37 years of age. Hasn't been in the ring since when? I'll find out the current time right now. Usman fought in April. This will be 11 months since Masvidal's been in the cage. Covington's active. He's way closer to his prime. He's improving after every fight. He's not coming off a KO loss. Sure, he got dropped against Usman, but he actually ended that fight winning against Usman. And you could argue if the fight kept going, Usman would have eventually lost because Covington was eventually starting to get better and better as the rounds went on. But either way, man... Either way, this is amazing news. I just think Covington's going to ragdoll him pretty easily. Now, Masvidal does have the advantage of still training at ATT. So, they're going to have some training partners around that know some stuff about Colby Covington, know some tells in his game. But Covington's changed up his striking game so much, I don't think you can really count on, like, the fact that you beat him in the striking beforehand. Because when you're in the cage and you know you can be taken down, it changes the striking game. It really does, and we've seen that even with Usman versus Masvidal. Masvidal was just so cautious of making sure he was defending that takedown all the time. He left himself open on the feet to some big shots. Do I believe that Covington has the same power as Usman to KO Masvidal the way Usman did? No. Do I think Covington is as good as the older Usman that held Masvidal against the cage? Sure, it was on short notice, but still. I think that Covington's going to hold him against the cage and drag him down to the canvas and punch him a couple of times, and Masvidal's going to be 37 years of age, and it's going to be a tough one for him. I don't know how this one goes for Masvidal. I'm not liking his chances, and I think he's probably going to lose. And I think he'll probably lose by decision. I don't see him getting finished by Covington. At least TKO'd. Maybe Covington could wear him down to the point where, hey, it's a 5-rounder and now Covington's sliding in a rear naked choke in the 4th or 5th. Maybe there's some money on that you could make. Submission Covington, later 2 rounds, rear naked choke. That's what I would sort of edge towards if I was a betting man, which I am. So I'm going to probably edge towards that kind of outcome. But this is an amazing fight. Masvidal's dangerous. He's still got power. But does Masvidal have that one-shot power in his hands to put down a guy like Covington? Yes, he does, but Usman's got massive power, and Covington gets back up, man. And that's what I'm noticing now with these matchups. Before, I saw how great Covington's chin was in the two Usman fights. I was sort of speculating what would happen between Masvidal and Covington and thinking to myself, well, Covington doesn't look like the iron jaw traditional guy that you would see take a bunch of shots like Masvidal does, so he probably would get chinned if someone lands a big shot on his chin. But watching his fights recently, man, Covington's got a granite jaw, and he's got good stand-up. Not as good as Masvidal, but with the mixing in of the takedowns, you don't have to have better takedowns. You don't have to have better stand-up, sorry. You just have to have the takedowns present, and then Masvidal's stand-up's going to get way worse. Maybe Masvidal's going to go out there chopping at the legs, making things happen early, but I can just see Covington playing around on the feet early, even against Lawler, and here's a big tell as to why I don't think he's going to get flying kneed or something in that first round. Askren shoots constantly. As soon as he's in range, he's shooting on his opponent. He even did this against Robbie Lawler himself. Same example here. Covington's style of wrestling is not, I'm desperate for the takedown. It's, let me throw some fucking hands first, and then I'll start mixing in the takedowns. Against Lawler in the first round, Lawler came out there swinging for Covington, and Covington stayed still, planted his feet, and swung back at Lawler, gave him something to worry about with the hands, and then started shooting takedowns underneath and eventually getting him down. I just think Covington's not going to lose here. He showed great grappling against Usman. I know it says Usman has 100% takedown defense, but we all saw Covington take him down. He got down Usman with a takedown. I don't see Masvidal having that level of grappling. And again, I take you back. And I know this is not something you can 100% rely on here. But there's just footage online of Covington, like, manhandling Masvidal around his own apartment, like in the wrestling department. And I know that people are going to say, oh, well, you know, Masvidal was at lightweight, Covington was at 170. It's a different time now. Masvidal's learned from the grappling of Covington, but that was like a Covington who was still getting new to the MMA game and the MMA grappling game, and he's there ragdolling Masvidal. I get Masvidal was a bit smaller, but he was also in his prime back then, in his athletic prime. He's now 37. If he did have an injury before, he's coming off an injury right now, unless it was just a whole hoax to make sure he can actually fight Covington next. But he's had his injuries. He's now had a very bad KO loss. Out cold, brutal KO loss. Not like a regular, maybe McGregor can recover from the Poirier TKO loss, where he gets sort of knocked out, yes, but it was after a cumulative amount of punches. It wasn't just one big shot, lights out cold McGregor. He'll never take a shot the same way again. And I think that Masvidal's going to go into this fight without that killer instinct, because there was a aura of invincibility in Masvidal's game for a very long time, because the guy just simply didn't get finished. Of course, there was a chance that he could be submitted, and he did get submitted by an inverted triangle, and he's been choked out a couple of times in his career, and he's been lost by decision a couple of times in his career. But overall, once he developed his sort of defensive grappling game in terms of defending like submission threats, he had this aura of invincibility where, yeah, you can drop me, I'm not going to get KO'd. That's now gone a little bit in Masvidal. And is he going to be that same savage on the feet now that he knows I can be switched off with a punch if it lands the right way? It never happened to me before, but it's just happened to me in my last fight. Also, I'm 37. Also, I've made more money than I know what to do with. Covington has made some money. He got pay-per-view shares of the recent Usman card, which shows that they believe that Covington is a pay-per-view draw. And this also kind of shows that they think he's a draw as well, the fact that he's main eventing a pay-per-view here. But he's still hungry. He hasn't got his BMF belt and shook hands with Dwayne Johnson and all this massive celebrity treatment. Like, Covington's still, like, he doesn't do the celebrity appearances as much as a guy like Masvidal. So he's still in the gym grinding, like, I still want to be a world champion. You haven't seen the best of me was his last post-fight interview when he lost to Usman, which I thought was a draw again. But I just think Covington's improving. And as this fight goes on, if Masvidal doesn't KO him in the first round, and again, Masvidal is, he had a couple of KOs in his career, but typically Masvidal's not really a KO artist. Like, you can land a flying knee and KO someone. If most people land flying knees flush in the first round that way, they're going to KO someone. He KO'd Darren Till, of course, after being dropped in the first round. That was a big moment for him. Perfect punch. Till didn't see it coming. Left hook straight on the chin. Other than that, though, Cerrone TKO into the second round, beating him up to the body for the finish. It's not like he's got this one-punch switch-off power. Ellenberger, another TKO on his career. That was mainly because Ellenberger got his toes stuck in the cage. If you remember that finish, that was a while ago now. Cesar Ferreira, he got a KO over him. But typically, Masvidal's not really this oh, don't let him touch you once. You know what I mean? And I've seen Covington get hit hard by Usman and ignore it in the first fight up until a certain point where his jaw gave way, because the jaw basically said, hey, Colby, you're a little bit too tough here. We're going to have to start breaking you down a little bit so that Usman has a chance to KO you. Eventually, Usman finished him in the 5th round. I just don't see Covington loses. I don't see Covington losing. And Masvidal's 37, man. And he's been out for a while and he's coming off a KO loss. I'm going to pick Covington to out-grapple him, mix it up on the feet as well, beat him up against a cage. I can see, you know what I can see here? Here's an image I have. Masvidal laughing at Covington, putting his tongue out and shit like that against a cage, just to like make it so that, you're not really doing anything to me. But Covington's going to be chaining together, grappling and putting him down on the canvas. Masvidal will pop back up a couple of times, but Covington would like keep the body lock, knee the thigh a couple of times, take him back down again. I just think Covington's been waiting for this moment for a while now. I think the same thing about his Woodley fight. Like, he just kind of knew, I've got Woodley. He called him out ages ago, didn't get it for the title, eventually got it afterwards, but still did the same thing he expected to do against Woodley. I think he knows I can ragdoll this fucker so easily. And if I can throw shots while I'm on top of him, I can ragdoll him even more. Because even though you see in their training footage, well, Masvidal occasionally gets back up, and people do get back up against Covington. There's also a part of wrestling where in training you kind of let your opponent get back up, otherwise you're just holding them down the whole time, and that's not really great training. You're not getting a lot of good work in that way. So you kind of let them back up a bit just so you can go for another takedown and push yourself even more and do a bit of flow grappling. But the fact that this is the main event of a pay-per-view is amazing news to me. I love this. We'll see how big of a draw they really are, I guess, without titles on the line, because this will be like one of the few times they've put a pay-per-view card on without any champions on there, other than maybe McGregor versus Diaz 1, right? McGregor versus Diaz 2. They don't typically do this kind of stuff. At least not recently. So, I'm glad. I'm glad. It's annoying that there's no TUF. I don't know who's going to be the headliner of TUF. So I guess I could make a video on that, breaking down who I believe would be best for it. Maybe, let me know in the comments. But this is an amazing fight. Main event of a fight night. And I'm just looking at maybe what you could do with that card, because it's already kind of a done card. It's got Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell on the main card. I'm looking at it now, and what I think it needs is Covington versus Masvidal main event. Perfect. Dustin Poirier, Nate Diaz co-main event. You're selling 500k pay-per-views at least already, just on those two names. And that's at least. Then you sprinkle in Vettori versus Rockhold, just to seal the deal and make sure you got some fun at the press conference with Marvin Vettori. And then Marina Rodriguez, Yan Xiaonan is going to be on the main card, I would assume. And Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell is going to be on the main card as well. On the undercard of that fight card, Jessica Ayman Fiorot headlining the prelims, in my opinion. Alex Oliveira, Kevin Holland co-main eventing the prelims. Dustin Jacoby, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Jamie Malarkey versus Jarlin Turner. Tim Elliott versus Tagira Lembekov. And Marina Moroz, Maria Agapova. This is a great card. This is a really amazing card. I hope they promote the shit out of this. Seriously, because without TUF, which is a gem for promotion because you at least get 5 clips of them pushing each other angrily and having arguments and being separated, like, hold me back, hold me back. Nothing sells a fight like a hold me back clip, I tell you. But I'm looking forward to this, man. This is it. This is the time, and it's in March, and that's not that far away. I was kind of annoyed that Chimaev versus Burns was like, we're considering it for April. It's fucking 16 weeks away. Get it quicker. I don't want to wait 4 months while a fight gets signed. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, if they can't do it on TUF, maybe they can do it here. And maybe, just maybe, Covington beats Masvidal. Poirier beats Diaz. They clash backstage. They have some beef. Poirier goes after Covington for what Covington said about his wife and his charity and stuff like that. And then Covington, Dustin Poirier on TUF, because Dustin Poirier is still under ATT and Masvidal's in there as a guest coach just lurking around. And then you get some interactions between Covington and Masvidal that way. In no way do I want to see Juliana Pena-Nunes on TUF. If there are female champions on the Ultimate Fight, I will lose my mind. I'll lose my mind if they fucking pull that shit. I swear to God, I'll start killing again. What? Sorry? Anyway, moving on. I think Covington wins. I think he dominates Masvidal by decision. I'll say 50-45, maybe 49-46. Masvidal might get a knockdown out of nowhere in one of the rounds, and then Covington just dives for a takedown, panicked, and gets the takedown and sort of recovers to survive that round. But I reckon that Masvidal's going to lose. Covington's stand-up's getting better. Masvidal is, I don't think he's getting better at this point. He's also looking very old in the face, and you know what it is? It's alcohol, man. It is alcohol. It's partying, it's alcohol. It really does something to people's faces. Masvidal, this time, like, on Masvidal's come-up, he looked like a young man again. Like, I almost feel like we went 10 years back in time to see Masvidal have another surge. Like, oh my god, Masvidal's got this young energy in him. He looks really young for some reason, even though he's been out there, and he's come back after a while, and he should be looking really old. He looks like a young man again. And then you look at Masvidal's face recently. Really oily, really chubby in certain areas. Fair play, he's out of camp, but I've never really seen it like this. And I think it's the partying, you know, to leaving his wife to go and party with the girls and doing his mezcal. Covington has bang energy, and that's it. Like, he does bang energy, and then he does his fucking training. You don't really hear much from Covington doing too many different business ventures or have a hand in different pots and stuff like that. So the focus is in Covington's favour. The style matchup is in Covington's favour. The time period is in Covington's favour as well. Activities in Covington's favour. Skill level in general is in Covington's favour. He looks like he's improved his stand-up. I don't want him to stand too long with Masvidal. He might end up in trouble. But if he can start figuring out some dips into some overhands, maybe he could catch Masvidal. You never know. But Masvidal's chance is to destroy this guy in the first round. Otherwise, it's going to be a ragdolling. And Poirier Diaz, I reckon Poirier wins. But if it's a 5-round co-main event, which I assume that it will be, Diaz has an actual chance, because he is just a heavy bag, and Poirier might get bored or tired of beating the shit out of him, and maybe Diaz can bounce back later on. We'll see. Maybe we could end up with a Masvidal-Diaz rematch after this, because the storyline's still there, you know, the doctor stoppage, everything like that. There's so many ways you can go with this. A part of me's annoyed it's not on Tough. A part of me's happy it's happening in March so soon. And at least we got a March pay-per-view that's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what else they add to this card. Vettori Rockhold. Please, Vettori Rockhold. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Covington by decision. Just woke me up.